2025 has already been a huge year for Zilla Jones. The Winnipeg author has just released her debut novel, The World's So Wide, which tells the story of a mixed-race opera star, hence why I'm thinking about music and albums, chasing down validation and love. The novel has barely been out in the world for a couple of weeks now and will be getting its official launch on Wednesday night at McNally Robinson Booksellers. Meanwhile, Jones is already receiving other accolades as she was announced as one of the 5 recipients of the 2025 Writers' Trust Rising Stars. The program was launched back in 2019 and supports the next wave of Canadian literary talent with mentorship and financial support. It's the latest in a slew of awards for Jones, who has also received, among other accolades, the Journey Prize, the Jacob Zilber Prize for Short Fiction, and being shortlisted for the 2024 CBC Short Story Prize. Amidst all of that, Zilla Jones joins us live in the Classic 107 studios this morning. Hello and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Nolan.
This is going to be a wonderful, wonderful week to celebrate all of these different accomplishments for you. First of all, what was it like to receive the call that you were one of the rising stars with the Writers' Trust?
I was actually really shocked about that one because it's kind of a unique award. Most of the other awards that I've won, I think all the other awards I've won, I submitted a piece of writing and it was considered, and then the judges read everything and then they get back to you and say you won, you were shortlisted. For this one, it's very special because you're selected by a writer. So the Writers' Trust selects 5 writers that they feel would be good mentors to newer writers, that they feel are making a mark with their own writing and have something to teach. And then those writers have to select who they want to work with and who they want to mentor. So you can't really convince somebody to do that. It has to be their choice.
Yeah.
They have to like your work. They have to know who you are. They have to kind of be watching you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You have to be on somebody's radar.
And I was chosen by Charlotte Gill, who is a really interesting writer. She's from BC, and she is of mixed Indian English descent. I think her mom grew up raised by nuns.
Wow.
I know you just talked about the Pope.
Yeah, that's right.
So her mom grew up in a convent as an orphan raised by nuns, and her father was a Sikh from India. And then went out of her life. And so she wrote this really interesting book, Kind of Brown, where she talks about that experience. And I actually really enjoy her writing and had heard of her before and followed her. And she chose to work with me. So that was really an honor and really exciting.
Absolutely. So you've been writing in some form or another for many, many years now, and there's definitely a wide volume of work for people to take notice of, including Charlotte Gill, I am sure, amongst them. And you've also received all these accolades that we were talking about in the introduction there. What is it like to be referred to as a sort of rising star in this context?
That's really exciting. I think that's what we all want to be seen as, right? As a rising star when your first book's just coming out. And they're basically a really important writers organization that was founded by the likes of Margaret Atwood and Michael Ondaatje and some of the giants of writing, started the Writers' Trust about 40 years ago with that goal of raising Canadian literature and raising writers to reach high levels. And they've done that. And so to think that you might be the next generation to do that is really exciting.
Yeah. This new novel that you have written as well, your debut novel, has this theme of seeking validation as a singer and as an artist, something that any artists can probably relate to regardless of their medium. What is it like to receive this validation for yourself as you are writing a story about seeking validation?
Yeah, I think that's really important. And if you read the novel, I don't want to spoil it, but
yeah, right.
At the end of the novel, the main character, Felicity, who is an opera singer, sings at the Met, world-class star, she learns that the beauty and the power of art is really that it's healing, and what it does for her, how much a part of her it is, and how important it is just to her self-image and her belonging to just be part of this music, to just be able to sing music that is so beautiful. Like La Traviata is what she's thinking of specifically at that time, and just being part of that beauty. And I think when you talk about validation, it's really important that it has to come from within. So awards are great. Who doesn't like getting them? You get money, you get accolades, you get nice things said about you, that they're great. You need them for a career. So they are important. But you should never, in my view, be looking to that to validate you as an artist, because that needs to come from within, and what you write and what you put on the page or sing or play, that needs to have inherent value.
Yeah. When I want to get more into this debut novel of yours in just a second, but as you've journeyed through all of these different mediums of writing that that we've been talking about a little bit or touched on a little bit so far, where have you received your validation the most in your career, and how did you kind of come to that sort of knowledge about where validation comes from? Because it's not the easiest thing sometimes to stomach for artists who are looking for that validation that their creative pursuits are good enough and that they are worthwhile, that validation comes from inside. How did you come upon that wisdom?
Well, I think the fact is that you hear more about the awards, but there are lots of rejections along the way for artists. So, and you see that in the novel too, that there are auditions that don't go well. There are gigs you don't get. There's dreams you have that don't come to be. And then every now and again, you get these little stars, as we speak of stars, of getting chosen for the Writers' Trust or getting shortlisted for the CBC or getting the Journey Prize. And those are kind of the little pieces of faith that keep you going. Yeah. But you can't wait for that. So I think I just learned early that to an extent, those things are subjective. It's somebody's opinion. And me, myself, I have to know why I'm doing this and what I'm doing it for. It has to be something bigger beyond that.
Within all of the dreams that your main character in The World So Wide is chasing, the dreams also can sometimes shift as you are going through life, as they do, it seems, for Felicity Alexander, the Winnipeg-born opera singer who is at the center of The World So Wide. Without giving too much away, maybe you can give us a bit of a taster as to what audiences can expect from your debut novel.
Yes. I mean, Felicity, what I've heard from people that have already read the novel is that she's one of those characters that you love to hate. So she's not a traditional leading lady in the sense that she's sweet and gracious and wonderful. She is selfish. She is self-centered. She is extremely ambitious and driven, and that can cause her to throw people aside and step on people. She is not always a nice person. But at the same time, they say they root for her so hard because this novel, I guess I should say that it is written in prior times. Yeah. So it takes place from the late 1950s until 1983, which is when the island of Grenada gets invaded by the United States, which is a part of the story.
Wow.
Her ancestry is partial Grenadian. So in the 60s, 70s, as she's trying to establish this career, there's even more sexism, racism than people would face now. So she is facing a lot of obstacles, and that's why she's so selfish and driven. So readers are rooting for her at the same time that one of my readers put it, I want to slap her.
All right. Well, if nothing else, maybe a little bit of catharsis for your readership. Lots of this, I would imagine, comes from your own life as a singer yourself, and somebody who has performed in a wide variety of places, not just as a writer, but also as a singer. How much of yourself will readers find in Felicity? But hopefully not the parts that they want to slap, I would imagine.
There's always parts of me in the things that I write. So definitely there are parts of me in this novel. Obviously, I didn't have anywhere near the success that Felicity has as a singer. I was very beginner. I did get to perform with Manto Opera Chorus and Opera Nuova and places like that. So I think just from having that little taste of what maybe that career was like, that's what I based the novel on, based on my training as a singer. And I think that's why I was learning that the arts is a very hard life. I learned about the competition, the competitive nature of it. And I think also what Felicity experiences as being a person of not fully European descent, a person of color, as I am, a Black woman who is in opera, that this is a very European form. It is a very hierarchical form. The orchestra is very hierarchical. The culture and traditions are not necessarily her own. And so she's an outsider in that world. And that was sort of my experience, a little bit of being an outsider in the opera world, being different than a lot of the other people that were there.
Yeah, certainly the opera world still has a ways to go as far as making stories on its stages more inclusive and obviously finding more representation in that space. Does writing this book and sharing Felicity's story give maybe you as a singer and an opera artist as well as a writer the same sort of validation, to go back to our sort of earlier theme before?
It makes me want to sing more. When
Wonderful.
I write her, I'm like, I want to go back to this more. But I think definitely the wonderful thing about 2025 is that there are more opportunities for different voices to be heard.
Yeah.
And so one theme of this novel definitely is Felicity's voice being heard, both her singing voice and her political voice and her voice of herself as a human.
Yeah.
And I think for me as a writer, to be heard and to be heard in ways like the Writers' Trust selecting you and validating you definitely makes me feel that, okay, you know, this is a place where I do belong and can say something and have something to say that people hopefully would like to hear.
Yeah. So you're moving forward with the Writers' Trust as part of this mentorship with the author Charlotte Gill that you've been talking about just a little bit. Part of that Rising Star win for you or recognition also involves a self-directed writing residency at the Gibraltar Point Centre for the Arts on the Toronto Islands. All of this incredibly validating for you, I would imagine. And I wonder, maybe by way of last question, what do you think that all this will mean for how you hold validation for yourself going forward?
Well, I think what's amazing about this award in particular is that it really gives you the space to create. So that 2 weeks is time that you block off just to sit in this little cabin or whatever they give you and write. And you have access to this mentor to help guide you through that.
Wow.
And funding to be able to afford to do that. So I think the fact that they think that this is something that's important for me to focus on and for me to be able to go and do that is really what's important about being an artist, because you need that time and space to create. And that's what it's going to give me.
Zilla Jones' latest creation, her debut novel, The World So Wide, will be officially released Wednesday night, or celebrated, I suppose, at McNally Robinson Booksellers. That's at 7 o'clock. You can find more information at our website later on this morning, classic107.com and the Classic 107 app. Zilla, congratulations on all of this. And thank you so much for joining us in the Classic 107 studios this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.